Clouds. In this lesson, we're going to look at how clouds form, and then what are the main types of clouds. So how do clouds form? Clouds form when water vapor in the air condenses to form liquid water, or it could also be ice crystals. We're going to see the difference between what happens when liquid water condenses and when ice crystals condense in the next lesson. In order for condensation to occur, the evaporated water has to rise and cool. One thing that is important for us to know is that as we go higher in the atmosphere, the temperature typically decreases, and it decreases about 3 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet. This is called the lapse rate. So if you go up a mountain, the higher up a mountain you get, the cooler the temperature is, approximately 3 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet. The dew point is the temperature at which condensation occurs. You've probably heard about the dew point numerous times. Anytime you're listening to a weather forecast, usually the dew point is indicated in the weather forecast. This is important for meteorologists in order for them to identify whether precipitation is going to fall during certain points of the day. If we know the temperature is going to decrease throughout the day, then we have a better understanding of whether it will rain or not. Or it could be any type of precipitation: rain, sleet, hail, snow. So if the dew point is above freezing, water vapor will form droplets, and usually those droplets eventually turn into rain. Not always, but most of the time they turn into rain. If the dew point is below freezing, then the water vapor will turn directly into ice crystals, and those ice crystals may form into snow, or they could possibly form into hail eventually, depending upon the amount and temperature of water inside of a cloud. The role of particles. In order for water vapor to condense and form a cloud, there must be tiny particles of dirt or other materials floating around in the atmosphere. Those materials must be there so that water can actually have a surface to cling to or attach to. As more molecules attach to that surface, the droplet gets larger and larger. Most of the particles in the atmosphere that this occurs on are salt crystals, dust from soil, or even smoke. We call these little particles condensation nuclei. Little particles of dust or other material floating around in the atmosphere is called condensation nuclei, and it is used for water vapor to cling to and form water droplets. Water vapor also condenses on surfaces. So for example, blades of grass or even window panes. Anytime liquid water condenses from the air and it sticks on a colder surface, we call that dew. Here's a picture of dew. Anytime there is ice deposited on a surface, we call it frost. Here's a picture of frost. So how clouds form? Clouds form when warm, moist air rises and cools. So looking at this picture, we want to put this in order and fill in the blank. Number 1 is warm, moist air rises from the surface, and as it rises, it eventually cools. Higher in the atmosphere water vapor gets, the cooler it gets because the atmosphere cools. Number 2, at a certain height, air cools to the dew point, and condensation begins. If we've reached the dew point, those water molecules no longer have enough energy to flow around in their own area. So eventually, as they lose energy, they group back together, and if there are particles floating around in the atmosphere, they will stick to those particles and condensation will begin. Number 3, water vapor condenses on tiny particles in the air. are clouds. There are a large number of clouds that we see. We're going to go through each one of those types, and we're going to have a little bit of an understanding of what characterizes each one of these types of clouds as well. So the first one are cirrus clouds. And we can see the cirrus clouds up there kind of right behind the text. They are wispy feather-like clouds, and they are made of ice crystals. Usually cirrus clouds indicate fair weather. Because they're so high in the atmosphere, it's kind of hard for them to give us precipitation. Serocumulus clouds, they look like cotton balls. They're over here on the right-hand side of the picture. They usually indicate that storms are on the way. Usually it's because warm air is rising on top of cold air. Where warm air is rising up on top of cold air, we get a higher elevation, and that warm air rising on top of cold air, where the two are coming in contact with one another, condensation is going to occur. Altocumulus and altostratus clouds, they form between 2 and 6 kilometers above our surface, and they usually indicate precipitation. Right here, altocumulus and altostratus clouds. The clouds that we have that form in flat layers are stratus clouds. Typically they cover the majority of the sky. They're usually a dull gray color. They can produce drizzle, rain, or snow. Cumulus clouds, they look like cotton. When we have short cumulus clouds, they usually indicate fair weather. When we have towering clouds with flat tops, those are cumulonimbus clouds. Those often produce thunderstorms. It's important for us to remember that the term nimbus means rain, so anytime you see nimbus, we typically are going to have rain. Clouds that form at or near the ground level, because the ground is cooler than the air around it, these clouds typically produce rain or precipitation as well. Some of them may just be like fog, though. So clouds and weather. What kind of weather can we predict from each type of cloud? So thinking back to that last slide, a cirrus cloud. What type of weather does it give us? A serocumulus cloud. A cumulus cloud. A cumulonimbus, a stratus, and a nimbostratus. What type of weather do we get from each one? Well, the first one, a cirrus cloud, usually gives us fair weather. A serocumulus cloud, typically we get storms. A cumulus cloud, fair weather. A cumulonimbus cloud, remember the term nimbus, usually means rain, or always means rain. We get thunderstorms with cumulonimbus clouds. A stratus cloud gives us cloudy weather. Not necessarily is there going to be precipitation with this type of cloud. And then a nimbostratus cloud gives us drizzle, rain, or snow.